Welcome back. It's week 17 with Peter and Parker. Today we're talking about how they're finally back doing bite work.
Thank God.
Jazz has been working on luring them. She's been doing some more tracking. She's been working on their social skills. They're playing really well. So we had planned, after last week's episode, we were showing the way that Jazz was slowing down the article indications via lots of articles on a very short track.
And showing them they must stop.
They must stop at each one. We planned to show how that has worked, only right now in Sydney it is torrential rain. So that doesn't mean that training stops. What that means is that it's very difficult to film. And even filming in here today, one of the reasons why I can afford a 300 square meter warehouse in the middle of the city is because it rains in here as well. So like we're dealing with a lot of buckets all over the place. That's the nature of the beast. But from my point of view, they're old enough now. They've begun bite work. First session back, we've done 2 sessions now, I think. We're just sort of bringing them back into it. It's nothing that really looks overly discernible as bite work. I'm just trying to do a little bit of prey guarding with them, trying to make sure that there's plenty of like arousal and a fair amount of fire to get their thing. Both of them are reasonably possessive. Both of them are pretty spicy. Like they both have indicated they're quite happy to bite me rather than the equipment, which is good. We got to keep cultivating that and keep that squared away within the context in which we want it. And the type of bite work that I'll do for the next few weeks is just a couple of sessions a week, nothing crazy. So we haven't done it today because we did it last night. It'll be just some like targeting stuff and just showing them so we're still with the sort of very thin puppy type equipment because they don't bite overly hard. They're still pretty young dogs. They're biting hard enough. Yeah. But, it's not crazy.
They're a puppy.
Yeah.
They can only bite as hard as they can.
So they're on the bites for short periods of times. They're going through a little bit of pressure, which is just the stick and a little bit of distraction. But so far, they seem really good. What's interesting is the difference between the two dogs. Their grips are still, as you would imagine, that considering how they were. Peter is just on and locked and very happy sort of pushing forward for the most part. If I stop, he gets a little bit jammed up, so I still have to keep moving, which is totally normal.
Yeah. And he likes to possess it after, so he's quite happy to like run off with it, but then just stand there. I don't let him go to ground, but he likes to stand. Parker likes to parade and go, hey guys, do you see what I have? And he shows
he needs
everyone
feedback about it. And I was surprised, like Parker, that very first session back was a little bit growly, a little bit vocal in the grip. No biggie, but that was gone by the second session. He's still a little bit more, and he's sort of digging a bit more. He's not as satisfied with what he has. Whereas Peter, when he was on, he's like, no, this is it, I've got it, as he was as a puppy. Parker was a little bit more sort of digging around and certainly I wouldn't describe it as chewy in the grip. We would manage that anyway. We wouldn't be able to tell if they were chewy.
Trying to maybe find you?
Yeah, or not necessarily just trying to find me, just like grinding all the time. Like he's just sort of continually trying to improve his grip. So they're both sort of on brand for what they've shown us prior to that. Tell us a little bit about the luring you've been doing.
So with the luring, it's longer sessions than maybe what people might anticipate compared to what I do later when it comes to obedience and stuff, because I want them to settle in the session, and sometimes when they come out first, it takes them a little bit to lower their arousal and for me to communicate to them that you need to have a lower arousal. I'm communicating with you. You have to try to read what I'm telling you. So we've been doing some positions. So there's like some sandstone blocks. You've seen me do this. Where I can, will avoid bending over in awkward positions to train the dogs because like both of our backs are just screwed. But it's also convenient because it's just easier to manage my hands, manage the dog and help them, but also have like a boundary for that session so they're not stepping off. If they step off, they fall off. It's a very distinct, like you're outside the boundary for this. So when I'm starting to teach them to stay in one spot, not flip around in a circle and, those sort of things, because we've done the pivoting. So if they're trying to anticipate that, they learn pretty quickly, hey, that's not what we're doing in this session. So contextually, it helps with the learning. So that's with the positions. That'll then come into a position box on the floor, which we just introduced the other day. We've also introduced the foot target little strip of wood. So that's going to be something to tell them that your feet need to stay on this while you're in the position box. And then once it's out of the position box, you still understand your feet must stay on that. So that can be part of like the tools to help them understand front feet, stay still. It's only your rear end moving. I work a lot of different movements, forwards, backwards, spin left, spin right, but then I also teach them to walk lateral with me. It's just another way I can communicate to them. So if they're not exactly like, they might be straight, but if I want them just to move over an inch, I don't have to take them all the way off and then readjust them. Like that's just a handy skill. But also later, if I then want to move lateral in the heel position, it can help if they already have an understanding of sidestepping.
Yeah. So a lot of that luring now is still just teaching them how to move their body.
Yeah, exactly. Like moving in different directions and moving your limbs, your head position, everything like that. So then when I start to actually teach like obedience and doing it in like proper sessions, so to speak, and the reason I say like that, all in inverted commas sort of thing, is because this doesn't look like it's obedience, but this is all the foundations for it, right? So
it's the precursors to it.
Yeah, which then makes it much, much easier to, and just more clear for the dogs when they start to learn and I start to add words to things later. They pick it all up much easier because they already know how to move their body. They know the equipment that I'm going to use along the way. So like at the moment, I'll help them occasionally. If I'm luring them, I'll help them say for the sit, like bringing in from a stand to a sit, bringing in their butt. I'll use my hand a little bit to guide their butt in, and then occasionally, like, so they don't slide back or jump back down to a down position, I'll just kind of rest there, give them some food. That's then going to be a whip I use later. So I can have an extension of my arm and go tap, tap, rather than me have to lean all the way around.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the play that you've been doing with them and how that's coming along.
Yeah, so we're working on, a lot of it at the moment is those little round, I think it's linen, right? Linen tugs, you got one up there?
Similar to
tube
this.
tug. Yeah, a smaller version of this. So basically they can, yeah, my one's a bit softer than this as well. So it's, I guess, a puppy version maybe. They can squish down on it and they can actually then grip it. I can still steal it though if they're chomping or if they're just not holding it strongly. So they're getting used to biting this. They're learning to, target up a little bit. So they're starting to practice jumping up and getting it, me supporting them on the way down, re-grip and go back into it and things like that. Oh, Genta's coming to visit. So we're doing that and working on targeting. I messed up a couple of indications because one side has a handle, the other got chewed off by a dog that was not my own. I went to grab the handle and I've missed, and then I've got bit on the hand a couple of times. That's my mistake. I go, hey, sorry, bro, here, you bite the right part, and we keep going. But for the most part, there you go, off you go.
How did those handles get chewed off?
Not by her, I tell you that, thank you. So yeah, they're working on their targeting, which can play a role later in the bite work, because if they just think they can target anywhere, then that can be a problem. I'm generalizing where we can play, lots of different locations. So if I want to be tracking with them next to a road later and there's traffic going by, I don't want them to have to experience that kind of traffic the first time in tracking. So I go, hey, we can play. You can learn not to get distracted by those things around, and you're engaging in the play. So it's working on their mindfulness, staying on the task, but then it's also showing them that play is an option in these locations. So when I then start to go do obedience or tracking or bite work or whatever in different locations, they already have an understanding that play is a possibility everywhere.
That's really important. I feel like if you're interested in the way that Jazz trains, the way that I train, the way that we sort of develop things, I think that's the most important thing that we've probably said throughout this whole series, is that you have to show the dog, hey, in this environment, rewards can happen before you even try and teach the dog to do anything in that environment or ask it to do things it already knows, because it's got to understand, like, yes, the foundation of everything is that I can be paid, that this is worth my while doing. And so you've got to show them that everywhere before you ask them to do anything to earn the thing, because they have to believe that it's true. And that will generalize. You've only got to show it in like 5, 6 locations, and then they go, oh, well, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like this specific building.
Yeah.
It's just like around buildings,
and
in fields, in car parks, when there's people nearby. Like, just show, like,
train station, things like that.
Yeah, here's the general gist of the environment. I'll pay you. you'll have a good time in this environment. Okay, got it. Now I can teach you stuff in that environment, ask you to do stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and the last thing we needed to talk about was the social skills that you've been working on.
Yeah, so I mean, that's always running in the background. There was a morning we were out after tracking. We were walking back to the car, free liberty sort of on the way back. And there's a group of walkers going around the field. And then rather than, I don't remember which dog it was, it might have been Peter, rather than them barking and, you know, running up and trying to bark the whole way there and those sort of things like they did as puppies, they're noticing, they're interested, but then they sort of trot forward and they go, that's interesting, but they pause themselves. They show a bit of impulse control. They understand
that's none of my
you're
business.
you're not going to succeed if you try to go over there, but it's fine for you to look. Eventually they're going to start turning that into like a glance and they go, people, walk off. But like this is still a progression from where they were previously, but I'm not working on it every day, like every session. It's when it's happening.
I reckon they're shaping up really good. Like,
yeah, for sure.
They're...
Well, the people at the park love them. They were so excited the other day when we were playing. They were doing laps around the field, so I've timed this as they were going to come round. I started the play session, and then as they're walking by, I was like, the strategy is using a competing motivator, and then that they want to go towards, and the tactic is those people on that track, and I've got the leash, so if he, you know, pops off, he can't succeed there, and I run away with the toy. So they're all watching, and then they're like, oh, is she going to do it? Is the dog going to stay on? Couple of tugs, he stays on, no problems. And then we keep playing, and then he looks again, and I steal it. And they're like, oh, he stole it. He lost it. So they're very invested. But
I'm happy with how they're going, because sometimes like they were nice little puppies, but sometimes after teething, dogs don't come back, and you see like there's often a drive dip, and things happen when they're teething, and sometimes after teething you're like, oh, because it gives you a much better indication of what you've really got there. And they've both come back pretty spicy and quite happy, and right now I'm quite optimistic for both of them. They both seem really nice.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Still, what's going to be fun to watch unfold through this series as we keep continuing, although it's getting harder and harder to make these because we've both got a lot of shit going on, but is them really separating as dogs, like really taking different training plans and stuff like that. So that's probably something we'll do a bit more on going forward, showing a fair amount of that. So that's it for another episode of Peter and Parker and where they're at. They're finally able to do some cool stuff now, so hopefully these videos will get a bit more exciting. We'll be able to do some more stuff with them, and you'll be able to see that progression along the way. If you've got comments, questions, anything, like we're genuinely interested in what you guys would like to see of these guys going forward. I think we're going to try for next week is try and do another going tracking and film that whole thing, and I'll come out there.
If the weather permits.
Yeah, so hopefully we can, I mean, it's going to happen. It's whether we can actually film it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what next week's episode is. As always, over Jazz right now, there's our profiles. You can check out mine and hers channels. Please follow along, subscribe. And over me right now is the rest of the videos that we've done with Peter and Parker, as well as some other video that YouTube thinks that you'll enjoy. That's it. We'll see you later.